Hello, everybody. This is Catholic Dad signing in for episode number 36. Fasting is theological boot camp. And so you got to think to yourself, what is boot camp and what's the purpose of boot camp? And boot camp is essentially training, 6 weeks of training. You go in and you push your body hard, right? And you try to make your body tough and able to do things that it wouldn't ordinarily do without the training of boot camp. It's also good for the mind as well in terms of doing hard, arduous tasks. It makes you do things that you wouldn't ordinarily do by decision, like charge into battle or go get a wounded soldier in gunfire or some kind of precarious situation. And so boot camp's important because it hardens your body, it hardens your mind, and it makes you tougher. Well, fasting's the same thing. Fasting is a theological boot camp. Because when we go into this world, we're offered all sorts of temptations, and these are the seven deadly sins, greed, gluttony, lust, pride, you name it, and these things offer us comfort as well. And so you have all these sinful pathways that we can choose. But we have to do the hard, difficult task and not choose those pathways and not go for comfort, but go for the righteous pathway. And that's the hard, difficult way. And so what does fasting do for you? Fasting essentially says, there's a cookie, I want it, but I'm not going to do it. And the easy thing to do would be to eat the cookie. And you can ask anybody that has a problem with gluttony, that feeding, that's their problem, right? And so that's actually the greatest of all primary temptations. First, the greatest temptation we have are our lower appetites is food. Number two is thirst. Number three are related to the sixth and ninth commandments. And so when we see that cookie and we say we don't want it, we make a conscious decision. We use our prefrontal cortex to actually override what our lower appetites want us to do. Even though the cookie's not necessarily bad for us, not one cookie, that's actually in some capacity could be good for you if it's like a Sabbath day or it's a feast day or if it's, Christmas with the family. But when you consciously make a decision to say, no, I'm not going to do the thing that my lower appetite wants me to do, and I'm going to walk the other way, and I'm going to harden my theological mind, right? Essentially what you're doing is boot camp training. And so you're fighting your lower appetite, fighting your temptation, and you're making your mind harder. And the reason why this is important is because when you go into the world and you're offered all sorts of comforts, and these comforts could be like tiny little comforts, but they could also be great theological comforts, not theological, great comforts in terms of great sins. And so when you're looking at all sorts of possible sins, and you remember that cookie, that you would then have the training, the theological and the spiritual training to back away from that cookie or back away from that sin and go do the right thing. And honestly, if you could do that, if you could habituate yourself to always do the right thing, then you've reached total sanctification, meaning that you are a sinless human being. Now, is that possible? Well, the Protestants would argue no. The Catholics would say it's exquisitely difficult, and most people probably would never even come close to it. But it's possible. You can actually habituate yourself to the point of no longer sinning in this lifetime. And if you do that, the Catholic Church teaches that you will be sanctified in terms of becoming a saint, canonized. And that is the ultimate goal of this life, really. So go live out a heavenly life on this planet in terms of doing the right thing all the time, walking away from that cookie. And fasting and prayer, these are the things that give you the weapons to go into this world and absolutely do the right thing no matter what. And so there you go. Fasting is theological and spiritual boot camp. It's training for the soul, and that's why it's good for you. And so, like everybody's like, why do Catholics not eat meat on Fridays? Well, I don't really have the exact answer for that. There's a lot of different discussion about that throughout the ages. But the fact of the matter is, if you do it, right, and you do it religiously, you're actually, you're practicing fasting. That's one of them, right? And you're also practicing obedience Obedience is a high virtue. And so, and just doing it, it's not going to harm you in any way, honestly. And so, just doing it, boy, that makes you a stronger person. So, please like or subscribe, pray the daily rosary, and get to Mass. And God bless you all.